boy, do we have a treat for you. And I say that because, like, it was a treat for us.
Absolutely it was.
And so by extension, it should also be a treat for you.
What you're trying to say is, hello and welcome to the Movie Men podcast.
Stop stealing my line.
Okay.
You say hello. Hello and welcome.
Welcome to the Movie Men podcast.
There we go.
I'm Peter. And the order of business operations, or whatever you'd classify yourself as, Brady. We are here and we are excited.
See, doesn't teamwork make the dream work?
I think so. And that sounds like something that was on Arthur.
Yeah.
Or something.
It's on something.
Or some such.
Yeah.
Regardless, we're here in this episode. We were actually very excited to chat with Canadian director, Allan Ungar, about his recent project, the 2022 film Bandit.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all this is going to be. This episode, this is a pre-recorded episode.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which we don't do often.
Very rarely, yeah.
But every so often, it's got to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so obviously, if you're familiar with the show, you know that our previous episode, Brady and I sat together and talked and reviewed the film itself, Bandit. So if you're wanting a review of the film, that's the previous episode that released. This today will just be exclusively, like Brady said, our interview, our discussion, and a really good chat with Allan Ungar. So
yeah, so let's quit wasting time.
Let's get to it.
Let's just get to it. So here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Since its release, Bandit has continued to crack iTunes top 10 in various film categories. Critics and journalists have both been praising this film for various elements, including the directing of Allan Ungar, a statement that I definitely can get behind. By The Wrap called this the best use of "oh yeah" since Ferris Bueller. So without further ado, we're here to talk with the one and only Canadian director, Allan Ungar. Allan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for kind words. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're both super excited about this. Obviously, we've both seen Bandit and have both.
Let's get start.
Yeah, we've both been singing the praises of Bandit to each other because it certainly blew, I think, all of our expectations away. So yeah, it's good.
That's awesome.
So Bandit is an extraordinary true story, which I think is something that as moviegoers we kind of are drawn to. When did the scent of the Flying Bandit first, when did you first catch the scent of that? And as a director who has done things like Gridlock and clearly the superior Uncharted film, what was it that ultimately cemented Bandit for you as a narrative that you wanted to tell?
I was familiar with the moniker in the early 2000s, I think it was, when I started, once you start spending enough time on the internet, and especially as a writer, nobody wants to know what the Google search history is of a writer. There's a lot of messed up stuff in there, but specifically as I start going down like sort of the deep canals of the web, the moniker became something I was familiar with. And the funny thing is that this all happened before I was born, because I mean, essentially, I was born in 88 and he was pretty much already getting sentenced at that point. So by the time he came to Canada in 84, I don't think I was even a thought from my parents. So I got sent the script about 5 years ago. Actually, what's crazy about it is this November will be exactly 5 years from the date that Craig Wendman, the writer, and I first sat down to talk about the movie. It's but yeah, I got sent the script by my agent and I just loved it. I mean, the fact that it was Canadian, it was about Canadian people, it was a true story, the characters were relatable. It just kind of had all the ingredients that I was looking for. And after Gridlocked, it was sort of this, I wouldn't call it problematic, but I was getting offered a lot of these movies that were very similar, stuff that I didn't want to do. It's like, oh, you're Canadian, check for the tax credit. Oh, you can do stuff that, you can make look bigger, check. Oh, action, check. I just didn't want to get pigeonholed. So I was becoming really, really selective, which is actually why I ended up doing Uncharted. so I could put myself in a better position to get better projects and projects with more pedigree and bigger talent. And yeah, so I read it, went after it. Craig and I sat down. I think we bonded immediately. And similarly, Craig was coming from a world where he was doing a lot of stuff, in the Hallmark and Lifetime space, which you wouldn't really put together. It doesn't really make sense when you watch Bandit.
Sure.
The script. And
definitely not a Hallmark movie.
No, so I think we were both coming at it from the same place professionally, which was we both wanted to elevate our careers a little bit. And then, we set it up with a producer in Montreal, and we were on our way.
Cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Allan, I'm going to show my cards here. I am a huge Nestor Carbonell fan. I love his work, and I would like you to just kind of peel back I've read a lot of things about just different things he did on this project, and I want to hear from your perspective, kind of orchestrating this. What's it like working with Nestor and on this project?
Nestor, I honestly can't say enough about Nestor. He's not just an incredible actor, but he's just an incredible human being. He's compassionate, he's patient, he understands, everything that I'm trying to do. He's got no ego in it. Of course, coming off of something like The Morning Show, huge budget, Dark Knight, huge budget, Lost, huge budget, Bates, everything that he's done. And then he comes to Bandit, which we all thought was going to be a little bit bigger, but just ended up being, kind of like a guerrilla run and gun indie style movie. And he was so down for it. And because he has a directing background in television, he was able to come in and say, all right, there's no way we can do everything that we need to do. So why don't we split our units up? And he's like, I'll kind of run this unit downstairs in the studio. You'll be upstairs, and then you come run to me and I'll show you what I'm doing. And so we kind of worked together in that capacity, which was really bizarre. I wasn't expecting that. And all of this was done with him on one leg, essentially, because he tore his Achilles tendon while we were shooting the climax of the movie, which was in the second week of production. So basically not only did he save the movie by staying and delaying his surgery, he saved the movie by helping me get some of the second unit pickup stuff that we needed. It's funny, we hadn't seen each other in a minute, and they paired us up when we were doing the press junket in Los Angeles, which was my first press junket. It was really exciting, actually.
Nice.
They paired Nestor and I together. They paired Josh and Alicia, obviously. And Nestor and I just spent the day kind of going from junket to junket and interview to interview, just hanging out. And yeah, he's the best. He's the best.
That is refreshing to hear, because that's the persona he gives on screen. So to hear that he's like that in real life is just very fulfilling. Just my one follow-up question to this. Obviously, being a fan of Nestor's, it wasn't a surprise to me that there was the eyeliner, eye makeup reference. And I'm just curious, peeling back the curtain, was this something that was in the blueprint once casting decision was made he was in, or was it kind of a last minute thing that kind of came about and you guys said, hey, let's do another one? Or where was the genesis for that?
We joked about it early on. I love pop culture references. I love everything about, the zeitgeist. It's hard to see, but I have crazy long eyelashes. And so the joke on set, whenever Nestor and I were together, the makeup team, the hair team, they'd all sort of like, not razz us, but they would poke fun. Right. And it was actually Nestor's idea to make a reference to himself, especially because we're talking about Boy George, we're talking about makeup, we're talking about all these things. It's just so relevant. And I think the way we did it in Bandit was probably the most overt in his career, but then he kind of joked later that he's done it a couple times. Like he did it in The Morning Show once, he did it in another show. But I like to think that this one was the most overt and one that will be pleasing for his fans.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't beat around the bush. It's a very straightforward comment. And yeah, it hits. So you mentioned Josh. Obviously, Josh gives arguably the performance of his career in this film. And a character like Gilbert, see, in films like this, it's so fascinating because if the film's done properly, which Bandit certainly was, it puts the viewer in a place where we're relating to and rooting for someone who is doing some pretty questionable things.
Yeah.
What was the collaboration process like with Josh to get this character to be everything that you wanted it to be and not the things you didn't want it to be?
It was really about humanizing him, and I think Josh brought that level of realism and sympathy and just all the things that we needed, because at the end of the day, it's like, goes back to that adage, good people have to do bad things sometimes. And there was this whole backstory that unfortunately we just never had time to shoot or the money to shoot, about his upbringing in East LA, having a Latino gang father and a white mother, and sort of never really belonging, never really having anything but a need for family and a place to belong, a place to call home. And so when Josh kind of came on, he sort of dug into the character, and I think he was really excited about playing multiple personalities, of course, and having fun with that. But I think what really struck him was the relatability and the fact that this was a guy who a lot of us could look at and totally sympathize with. And he really wanted to bring out the quirks, the sort of weird personality traits and the things that might make him feel a little bit more three-dimensional, but also humorous. And like, similar to me, a lot of us try to find the humor in everyday situations, whether it's trauma, whether it's fear. And so he and I really worked closely in bringing those elements out. And I think the one thing he really added even more was a sense of comedy. I mean, the film was always written to be slightly humorous and to have self-aware moments and not take itself too seriously at times, even though it is a drama. But I think he really dug in and brought out a lot more than I was expecting. And he says to himself, it's crazy. He's like, he wasn't expecting it to be as funny as it was either. He kind of just, and then we'd be on set and we'd both just start riffing off each other and come up with these ideas, like him throwing a lisp into the original sort of stakeout sequence was something we just came up with on the day. Him in the construction outfit after he makes the bet with Mel Gibson about the bank. Originally, he was going to come back in and he was just going to already be changed back into his clothes. But he's like, nah, I should come in and we should have this moment. And so we really just sort of collaborated on how we could take every scene and every moment and elevate it to be its absolute best.
Yeah. And it's done to a T. I think it's very easy. It would have been very easy to have the humor thrust the character into a point that was unrealistic. But even small moments like him telling a stranger on the street that he's going to be a dad, I'm like, that's pretty much how I responded when I found that out. Like, that is, it's funny, but it's real.
It's human.
And Josh is so good at those things. And I've always thought he's such an underrated actor, and that he's always had this really great platform to exist on, and like these big rom-coms and Transformers, and Jupiter's Legacy was a huge show on Netflix. But it's one of those things where I think people haven't given him the ability to do what he's really capable of. And I think this movie, as you said, I mean, we're very thankful. I think the unanimous sort of, the consensus is that this is sort of the best he's ever been. This is him showing off his props and resonating with audiences that already women found him handsome and charming. Men were like, oh, this guy's a stud. He's amazing, honestly.
Yeah. You mentioned another relatively well-known actor who's in this film, in one Mel Gibson, who not only has an incredible career under his belt, but has overthrown Tim Allen as my personal favorite on-screen Santa. And so tell us. It's, we won't talk about the movie, but as Santa, like, his standalone performance is like,
conceptually, I think look, I did like it. I did like the movie, but I think there was something that was still a lot more fun about Mel playing Santa than the movie itself. And the funny thing, here's the funny thing. Okay, they shot that movie in Ottawa, as you may know. So they shot that movie in Ottawa, and it's called Fat Man. And the real Tommy Craig was nicknamed the Fat Man in Ottawa. So that was kind of fun. And when I told Mel that, he kind of chuckled. He's like, wait, do you want me to gain weight, wear a fat suit? I'm not doing any of that stuff. No, Mel was always on the short list. He has this uncanny resemblance to the real Tommy Kaye, which is insane. If you, I don't know if you ever got a hold of the press kit or you saw real photos, but the real Tommy Kaye and Mel, if you put them side by side, you're like, oh my God, I can totally see this. And we talked very early on about, if he would be able to go and read the book and watch the documentaries. And he did his research, he did his due diligence. I think he was fascinated by the stranger than fiction elements. Truth Stranger Than Fiction. And I wasn't sure what to expect because, there's a lot of guys now doing these movies where they come in, they work for a few days. And, obviously there have been some movies that he's done that aren't as good as others. And it's like that with anybody, but there was sort of this uncertainty. And I think we hit it off, right off the bat. And I think he trusted me and he knew, what I was setting out to make was a lot different from maybe some of the preconceived notions that people had about this movie. Because, to be quite honest, I think a lot of people heard about the film, they saw the cast, and they were like, oh, this could be one of those. This could go a different way.
Sure.
I was so excited for that because I was like, as soon as they released the specs for the movie and you see that it's 2 hours long, I don't think anyone in their right mind would, think an Emmett Furla movie or one of these Bruce Willis sort of schlocky films would ever run that long. So I think people started to be like, what's up with this movie? Maybe I got to check it out. So I had a big smile on my face because I knew that there were going to be a lot of haters out there expecting this to be like a really bad, action movie. And so, Mel just, I don't think we've seen Mel like this in a while. He's kind of like a charming uncle in a way. And
yes.
He's a father figure.
Yeah.
And what's great about it is we kind of set it up so that everybody was expecting, when we meet him, he's probably going to double cross him later. Or he might show up at his house to beat him up. All the kind of, crime drama tropes that we've seen before. And we just said, no, because it didn't happen. None of it happened. And even to sort of dramatize it a bit and take the creative liberties, we don't want to do any of that. And so I think what was refreshing about it is people are like, oh, we haven't seen this side of Mel Gibson in a while. It's kind of nice. And he's fun and he's charming and he's enjoyable in the film.
Yeah. Staying on Mel Gibson just real quick, I'm curious because not only is he an incredible actor, but has also directed some big, incredible films and Hacksaw Ridge. And I really enjoy Hacksaw Ridge.
Hacksaw Ridge is incredible.
Yeah. But so what is it like working with, was there any dynamic that you ever felt that you didn't expect because not only was he such a highbrow A-list actor, but also had that directing repertoire behind him as well?
Yeah, look, it was definitely intimidating at first, and I wasn't sure which way it was going to go. But I think because we built the trust early, and I think because of the way that he saw me handling the set and working with all the other actors, not once did the director side of his brain come on, which I thought was incredible. I wouldn't be able to do that personally.
No. Mm-hmm. No.
Even when I'm producing other people's movies, the director, light comes on, and I don't always say it, but I'm thinking it. And, it's possible that he was thinking it, but he was just there to sort of act and do his role. And he stayed in his lane. He was very respectful, very mindful. He's a bit older now, so he was actually quite patient with some of the working hours. We had really long days. We had him for a week. And I didn't want to burn him out, obviously, in any way. But he was a total pro. And I know that what's great about it is, he made me a promise when we made the movie. I said, listen, if you watch the movie and you like it, do a little promo for us, do something, help us out a little bit. And he said, if I like the movie, I will 100%. And he did. He did a couple press junkets, kept it, minimal. He doesn't do a lot of promotional stuff anymore because people are always trying to trap him and bait him. And, you got to be careful.
Yeah, but, everyone wants to talk about the past.
Yeah, people want to talk about the past. That's the society that we live in now. People don't really know how to move on or sort of just, anyway, we could talk about that for hours. But he stayed true to his word, and he was proud of the film, and he was texting me when it came out. He's like, "How are we doing? How's it looking? The reviews are pretty good. We got a couple bad ones, but they're mostly pretty good." I was like, "Yeah, people like the movie, so fingers crossed."
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
That's great. Speaking of liking movies, I obviously liked Bandit, but another film that I absolutely adore is 2002's Catch Me If You Can. And
yeah, of course.
Obviously, there's the main connection of, both Bandit and that film are, the cat and mouse, and you've got that main narrative going. But what really propels Catch Me If You Can is it's more than just that. It's a coming of age story. There's things that just bring it to life. And obviously what Bandit did so well is it also had things that were beyond just the cat and mouse, the unique, American dream told within the Canadian context, or truth stranger than fiction, or a victim of the time of the economy and his upbringing, and all, there's a grocery list of all these kind of narratives that Bandit had. My question to you is, of all these fun, enriching, captivating narratives, what was for you is like bringing something to life? What was the most fun to bring to the screen of all those narratives?
It's funny, I was really excited about the cat and mouse element. And as the process sort of took on a life of its own, I became very enamored by the romantic relationship between Josh and Alicia, because their chemistry is it's fire.
Yeah.
And I think what's funny about it is when we watched the first cut of the movie, I had a fellow producer take a look to give me notes. This is back when it was 2.5 hours long. And he said, what's funny about this movie is that the A story is really this relationship between a guy and a girl, and the longing and need for family. And the B story is kind of the heist thing. And what's funny is not much changed since then. I mean, it's still obviously in a way a heist movie, but it's a biopic. I mean, it's this guy's journey, and a big part of the journey is this woman that he meets. And obviously another thing that we couldn't put in the film that we shot, and I'll be releasing, I think, some deleted scenes in the next couple of months, but this whole idea of trying to seek his mother's approval and rekindle the relationship from this broken family. And I think that's like the driving force of the film. And for me, being able to take on the challenge of focusing on something so dramatic after having really focused on a lot of like popcorn action comedy stuff, I really enjoyed that, actually. I really enjoyed working on that sort of romantic aspect of the film.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
So, I mean, one of the things when I watched this that really stood out to me in this film is the sort of like the meta-ness of it. The fourth wall breaks, and the on-screen text that indicates when something really happened. What was the creative process that sort of led to these appearing in the film?
So originally, the very first script had a sequence during the Big Vancouver, which is actually what happened. They were in a big shopping mall. The jewelry store was a Burke's, and it was in a big mall. And Robert and Bishop, the idiot who leaves the gun behind, actually ended up running into a police conference with like 100 cops. And the title on the screen originally said, "Yes, this actually fucking happened." And it was just once. And then that was cut out. And then as we went through various drafts, we kind of just never went back and revisited those things. And then as we were getting into production and scenes were changing and rewrites were being done, budget restrictions, Craig and I started talking again about how, maybe that stuff should come back in to compensate for maybe some of the things we're going to lose, but also people are just not going to believe some of the crazy, wacky stuff that happens in this film.
Right.
And so we only had one instance, which was the shotgun, because it's just so dumb if you think about it. Like, oh, did the writers get lazy, or did they not have time to finish the scene, so they just dropped the shotgun? So we knew that we wanted to do that. The fourth wall break was actually a combination of Josh's idea. I wasn't into it at first, and Josh really pushed me into doing it, and then that kind of took a life of its own. And as we were editing the film, we only had the one instance with the shotgun. This actually happened, and one person that we were test screening it for watched it, and one of the notes was, "There's no way anyone would give over their health card for $22. That's really stupid." And I was like, "No, that actually
they did."
He's like, "Oh." So it was between that and the jailbreak, because it's just so easy how he popped out of a minimum security, which again, that's kind of what happened. Mm-hmm. So we decided we need to have it come in threes. So we knew it was going to be health card, the shotgun, and then the pizza just kind of felt like the icing on top, because that also actually happened. So it was one of those things that honestly, never before in my career had I kind of had a situation where a lot had to change in the process because of sort of how the scope and scale changed. Usually with the script is the script, and I always very much stick to the bones of the script. Not always every word of dialogue, but pretty close. And so this was the first time where, because we were just in this blender and things were changing and we didn't have the ability to do so many things, I think our creative juices started to really flow, and we kind of all came together. Craig, Josh, myself, Alicia, even Nestor, like all the cast and us, we kind of just came up with a lot of these ideas that became what the final film was.
Cool.
Very cool. What was the dynamic, or what can you kind of describe what it was like recreating these Canadian cities when you did this in the United States, in Georgia, not in Canada?
Yeah, that was crazy. I had a Dropbox that even if we shot in Canada, I would have had, which just had a lot of sort of visual references of the banks, the real banks that he robbed, which Scotia branches, TD branches, the real Playmate, the Glebe neighborhood, just everything. And so I kept that on hand, gave it to the art department, locations department, my production designer, who was incredible, who had nothing to work with, and built the Playmate in 3 days, like no joke. He'd been to Canada, but nobody else had actually ever been to any of these cities, and some people had never even been to Canada. Which isn't that surprising now that I think about it?
No, it's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. They think we live in a goose. We all think we live in a goose. And so Craig and I had to go off a lot of our own memory, but a lot of Google Maps, Street View, things that just because I remember we were struggling to figure out how I would do the Parliament Hill sequence where Josh pulls up in front of Parliament, because we were never going to have Josh in Ottawa. And of course, you watch the movie and it looks like Josh pulls up in front of Parliament. And I was like trying to figure out how I would match the buildings that are opposite Parliament. And we found this one street that had the architecture, the brick color, like everything was almost identical to this other street. I think it's Wellington. Wellington is the main street there. And, I drove everybody nuts trying to, get these historical accuracies figured out, but also just the geography figured out. And it really just came down to, I think some people thought just put a Canadian flag everywhere. And I was like, no, that's the stupidest thing. And they're like, why? That's what they do when they come to Canada. American movies just come to Toronto and put American flags. And I was like, no, we got to do more than that. And to the art department's credit, to the location department's credit, we would go to street corners and we would go to different neighborhoods and we would find architecture, aesthetics, anything that resembled parts of these neighborhoods. And it's crazy. It actually worked. I'm like, most people didn't even know we didn't shoot the movie in Canada. And because we really did shoot in Ottawa. We were there in Ottawa for a couple of days and, you can see it. Like, we got the truck, we got Parliament Hill, we got, the canals, we have everything. It's just that was such a minor fraction of what we actually did in the States. And, that was not something I want to do again. that was tough.
For me, honestly, it was the red and white health card that sold it. I was like, I've still got that somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I had to cut mine up or something, but I think some of the props and the currency really helped.
The currency for sure.
Because there's definitely things that I notice, like glaring issues that I notice. I'm like, oh my God, this is so obviously like Georgia here, Georgia there. But what's crazy is that, rural Georgia looks a lot like, Northern Ontario, and parts of, Ontario, even in the South, as you get closer to the border. It's, there's a reason people shoot everything in Georgia now. You can make it look like anything.
Like anything. Yeah. Cool.
Very interesting. Just putting on the Canadian lens here. Obviously, you've come across and worked with various other Canadian professionals, Alicia in this project, your writer Craig, Ben Mulrooney in Gridlocked, Nathan Fillion. What's the dynamic when you come across other Canadian professionals? Like, is it kind of unique, or is it kind of weird where everyone just assumes you know each other? Like, what's the dynamic like when you're coming across?
I think when you're in Canada making a Canadian movie, nobody really cares. It's just like, I'm talking to you right now.
Sure.
Like, okay, what's up?
Yep.
On this project, it was funny because Alicia called me from her still Ontario area code. And I think we immediately felt a connection, and the fact that we were two Canadians telling a true Canadian story in Georgia. I think we all felt like we had to, like her, me, Craig, we felt like we had to band together. I mean, even she, it's funny because she had grown up and spent some time in the Glebe. So when we'd be looking at different things and say, hey, do you think this Victorian house could look like it was in the Glebe? She'd be like, yeah, I think that actually worked. Or something wasn't selling. She's like, I don't know if this is going to work. What do you think? And kind of talk about it. So yeah, it was fun.
That's very cool.
Cool. Allan, before we let you go, we got a probe about what's coming next. Right now, currently, you have a producing credit coming up for Sympathy for the Devil, which is exciting for us because an ongoing, I don't know how this happened, but an ongoing theme on our podcast has just become Nicolas Cage. We're constantly talking about Nick Cage. But also I'm interested in anything that you can tell us about Tenfold.
It's so funny. I've been asked about that. I guess it's on my IMDb. Not much is happening. That's just one of those projects that's been around that I've been attached to. And there's a couple, it's like I was attached to Bandit for years before it happened. No, Sympathy for the Devil was great. We shot that in Vegas this summer. Not a place I'm running back to in the summer, that's for sure. It is hot and it's monsoon season. I didn't even know there was a monsoon season in Vegas. And
what?
I don't know if you guys heard the news in the summer, but I think they had a record rainfall one Thursday. The amount of rain they had surpassed the annual rainfall for the last decade or something like that. Crazy. But that was a wild ride. That was a lot of fun. Nick was great. I don't want to say much about it. All I'll say is that he was seen with red hair all over the news, and the paparazzi were chasing him because they were trying to figure out why Nick had this weird look, and that was for our film. And he turns in a crazy performance in this movie. It's bonkers. So you could look for that next summer probably.
Yep.
That was a lot of fun. And then I have a couple things I'm looking at right now. I'm attached to direct a couple other films I'm excited about that are sort of in the same world as Bandit, leaning on the action, the comedy, the heart, the levity. And then as a producer, I've got a couple of video game properties that, I have the rights to that I'm trying to, set up. And there's a platform I've been working with closely that's, I've been trying to build that. But, like everything just takes time. So, there's a lot to be excited about right now. And, I'm certainly more eager than some of those who are excited for me to see where that goes.
Well, I'll make sure Pete sends you my resume and my headshots, and we'll be fine. Yeah.
Deal.
Yeah, cool.
Well, perfect. Allan, again, thank you so much for your time.
Well, of course.
Congratulations on Bandit and its success. Just wonderful film. And we do truly look forward to what the future has in store for you, and nothing but the best for you.
Thank you. Yeah. I'll be looking forward to coming back and talking to you guys on the next one.
Yeah, we would love it.
We love it. All right, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, like we said in the beginning, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Do you think he would be willing to replace one of us on this podcast?
I mean, when we were in discussion with him about guesting on the show, that's not something that I brought up about potentially replacing one of us on a long-term basis. I suppose it's...
I enjoy doing the podcast, but also for the best interest of the podcast, I will gladly step aside.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, did not come up, but I guess we can't rule it out.
So what was your big takeaway from that interview?
My big takeaway from the interview, there's a lot. I think the interview was 30-ish minutes long or high 20s. Regardless, I could go for exactly that amount of time and say what my big takeaway was. But I think my big takeaway was, as a fan of Nestor Carbonell, I'm so happy to hear what he was like to work with on this project, and that, how he appears on screen is kind of how he is in person. He's genuine, he's authentic, and just the fact that he was so helpful in different type of production and capabilities with helping Allan, and just the fact that he postponed his own medical care for an injury, and just instead say, no, I'm good. I'll finish out this project because it's best for this film, and I'll deal with that when we're done here. That was just bonkers to me. But yeah, that just, I guess I said Nestor Carbonell, but I guess you could extend it to just the rest of just what Allan's experience with the cast, his great experience with Alicia, who apparently found out she was pregnant while they were filming, and just even with Mel and the professional that he was and what he brought to the team there. I think that's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
Cool. How about yourself?
Deleted scenes. There's deleted scenes.
Yes.
And they're probably coming.
I
get more Bandit.
We talked about this in our review, and again, if the listener hasn't heard it, go back and listen to it. We had fun Brady and I had fun talking about that as well. I'm absolutely there for the deleted scenes. This was a film that had a good tempo and flow, and I could have absolutely done with more just because of how well done it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even though this was an amazing episode, and I feel like we don't owe the listener anything at this point, send them off with the nicest, most wonderful send-off you possibly can.
Sure, sounds good. Well, thank you again for listening. Obviously, huge thank you for Allan for joining us on the show. It was a huge treat for us. We hope it was a huge treat for you, the listener. And follow, subscribe on all our socials below. Rate and review us. And check out our Patreon page. Help support the show. And you can find some ways that we can help return some favors for your support. And until next time, we look forward to talking to you.
Yeah, and look forward to talking. Like, maybe my takeaway is actually he's excited to come back and talk to us again.
Yes, that was, and he kind of left some interesting little tidbits about what he's got brewing and what he's working on, and it sounds really interesting, and it would be a fun opportunity to chat with him again in the future.
Yeah, I've tried to weasel my way into his phone book for...
Yes.
You know, even if I got to be bus stop guy number 4. Uncredited. There won't be any speaking line. Like, I'm not a part of the Screen Actors Guild, so, you know.
Sure.
I'm not going to get, like, a script or anything. Mm. But,
that's okay.
You know, just even the guy stealing candy from a baby in the background.
Right.
I'm game.